So in this module, we covered a bunch of fine-grained control points that you have when you apply bindings by setting different properties on those bindings. First, we covered the update source trigger, which controls when data flows in a two-way data binding scenario from the target to the source. Normally, it's going to be on focus change, but if you set this to property change, then you can get that immediate feedback, keystroke by keystroke in a text box, for example, to flow the data from the target to the source. And we'll see later in the validation module, this can be important for immediate feedback to the user if they're inputting bad data. We also talked about the difference between default and lost focus. Default and lost focus generally mean the same thing on most controls, but on a control like the data grid, default means a row focus change and lost focus means a cell focus changed. Next, we talked about converters. Converters are these objects that you implement that implement the I-value converter interface. You hook them in through the converter property of the binding, and the data will flow through them both from source to target and from target to source. And as part of that flowing process, you can transform the value or the type of the object that's being passed through. Next, we talked about async bindings and simply using the isAsync property on a binding to make it so the get and set block of your source object get called on a background thread if they might take a long time and you don't want to block the UI. Next, we talked about fallback values, specifically the fallback value property and the target null value property that allow you to supply alternate values to be used when the source object value can't be resolved. Next, we talked about string format and the way it will let you basically pretty print or create a formatted string version of the value that you're getting from your source object. So this works very nicely with dates and numeric formats and so on. Finally, we finished off with the concepts surrounding multi-bindings and priority bindings. We described that multi-bindings have a collection of child bindings from which it can come up with a final value based on the values that come out of the individual bindings. And a priority binding, on the other hand, allows you to have a collection of child bindings and have it pick the highest priority one of those that comes up with a value for you.